What is up? I am whispering because obviously there are sleeping people in the house. I went to bed so early and I woke up and I'm like, why do I feel so rested? And I was hoping that it was at least 6 o'clock in the morning. And of course, it's like 3 o'clock. So I'm like, ugh. Um, in one of my videos, my experience as a Black American with Black Americans, I mentioned that, I went from like the hood reality to the middle class. And I was talking about the regiment that I got from my mom. And like I said, we got religion, we got structure. And people often ask me, they go, you know, you don't talk like a Black woman. And you say that you were adopted, you know, were you adopted by a Black person? And I said, yeah. My mom is a Black woman. She comes from a strong rooted Motown family, a working class Black people. Her first cousin was Levi Stubbs from the Four Tops. Her husband worked at Chrysler for all of his life, like literally, he had to stop working because of illness. She worked at, what was Detroit Edison, for most of her career after her daughter started school. So, I mean, again, my experience with Black American people has only been through the lens of working class people, not the lazy, unmotivated, low IQ people that many Black conservatives like to narrate us as. And it was so interesting because I was catching something on Twitter. Shamika Michelle had posted something in response to someone else saying something about the fact that she had 3 cars and something like that. And, she was just like, you shouldn't assume that every single Black woman, doesn't have a man that is actually taking care of their kids. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Black conservatives perpetuate the idea that all Black men are not really taking care of their children, and that all single Black women are women who are just doing it by themselves, And again, when you narrate a entire culture of people in such a one-sided fashion to kind of suit the fancies of what other people who are not in that community want to hear about them, that's pretty much the result, is people are going to run on assumptions about everybody and they're going to kind of make you eat your words sometimes. You know, I was looking at yesterday, there was also something that caught my attention that I want to address, and I think that it's very beautiful. This guy named, I think it's Carmine Sabia, and obviously he has a conservative Republican disposition, but I just want to call him out for being such a beautiful person. And when you talk about true Christianity and a true person of God, a true person of God is fair, right? They're fair, they are objective, and they give true grace to people. And I want to give Carmine um, Sabia grace because, there's been a lot of ignorant statements being made about Brandon Scott, the Baltimore mayor. And they have been all based on stereotypical trolling. And the most disappointing thing is when, you know, I saw the video by Greg Foreman, who is the Black conservative perspective, and he was trying to defend, a lot of the nasty, vile things that have been said about Brandon Scott, calling him a DEI. And a lot of these people, they want to act stupid. Like they don't see how certain phrases are synonymous with other things. And so here Greg is, and I've followed Greg and I've agreed with some of his points. I don't really like the new Greg. I like the older Greg when he seemed more, independent. But his take on the comments about Brandon Scott was just so appealing to one side of the argument, and it just lacked a lot of understanding. And people like this who are black faces to the conversation of black people, like I said, they need to be careful, because Carmine gets on the mic. Now, this is a non-black man. Now, apparently, these comments about Brandon Scott has gotten to his soul enough where he says, "You are making me defend a Democrat." But the unbased racism and hatred shown for Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott, who I disagree with on a ton of issues, and let's have that conversation, is horrifying. Some conservative influencers are determined to push away black voters. Every one of you have said DEI or just any racist thing you can think of, have shown who you really are, and you cannot change that. We see you. And I thought that was just so brave, so beautiful, because you have people who are invested in black and white people being divided. And like I said, these faces aren't always white or other, right? A lot of times you have people who are black who cannot objectively say what this man just said. You have Greg Foreman defending the ignorance. It was only one video. It was like, no, one stand account. It was like, no, it was more than that. But you didn't want to go see that because you're trying to make people feel better. So kudos to Carmine Sabia for getting on the mic and being a righteous man and just speaking truth. So I really appreciate that. But getting back, yes, I was raised by a black woman in a black family, and we had family reunions. I was raised to have respect. And like I said, my neighborhood was a predominantly working class black neighborhood. And even though we had diversity, it was predominantly black. And it was not ghetto. It was a maintained area. Matter of fact, when I go to my mom's house, which she still lives in our neighborhood, right? That neighborhood is still maintained. People are still having pride in their properties. So again, it's easy to have a one-sided perspective, but I think the more objective black people who aren't emotionally infused with any type of rhetoric that can get on a mic and just be honest about, yeah, Black America has suffered a lot of socio-economic downfall. We have a lot of media influences that are hurting our next generations, but we also get hit by the economic policies that don't favor anybody. It just sucks for us, the worst, a lot of times, or poverty line blacks, the worst. So, and I had another comment about, oh, you're wearing straight hair and you communicate like a white person. And it's like, I was raised in a household where there was no standard of black. My mom raised us to be people with morals and ethics. She told us, the proper way to speak and communicate with people. So, no, she did not want us to buy into any type of negative projections to Black people. And so she did shelter us from those things. And so we grew up very grounded. We grew up very, exposed to, whatever we wanted, as long as it was not bad messaging, right? And we had to sneak and listen to hip hop music, right? Like when we were in middle school. But even still, it wasn't like a fabric of my household. It wasn't something that was promoted by my parent. And so, from my mom's perspective, her thing was, there's nothing worse in this world than a stupid Black woman. Like she wanted us to always go out and be smart, intelligent. And so the working harder part for her was always about getting smarter, always knowing a little something about everything. And when you do, you're able to be more leverageable. And that's how she was able to get promoted in her career is she was curious and she learned how to do things that other people were doing that were above her level. So that's how my mom taught me, and it's benefited me. And this is something I'm teaching my kids. I don't buy into idealisms of blackness because they're not even rooted in black idealism. They're rooted in some non-black idea of how they think black people should function. And I reject those things. I don't buy into anything that I don't think is helpful to my overall elevation because I wasn't raised to. And again, my mom was a single woman, and when she got us as foster kids, but she was married for over 30 something years before her husband died, right? So, I was raised by a single black woman. And yeah, she had a little emotions, right? But I've, obviously, God blessed me with control and reason. So, when it comes to being hyper emotional, that is not something that is inbred in me as a reaction. So, you know, there's always, the world is full of people who are contrary to popular belief. And I think if people were more open, about that, and they didn't just make up their mind that people are just all one way, and they give grace to every single person to prove that they are that way before they just outwardly reject them, this nation could probably function a lot better. It probably could. I don't look at all white people and say, oh, they're racist or they're this or they're that or they're looking. No, I give everybody grace to prove that they're something. And if we all just do that, I think that we get along a little bit better. So I'm probably not going to go to sleep. So I guess it's time to just start functioning. I got to get some cleaning done before Sabbath start. But anyways, you guys have a wonderful day when you wake up. Bye.